What if the most powerful weapon America has in the Pacific isn't a stealth jet, but a 50-year-old airframe with a digital brain and a swarm of killer robots? This isn't a drill. The rules of air combat are being rewritten in real time, and China is watching its entire strategy unravel before it can even launch its first missile. The story you're about to hear is not about one plane, it's about a system. A networked, thinking, breathing weapon that turns a single pilot into the conductor of a robotic orchestra of destruction. And it's already flying over the contested waters of the Pacific. If you're serious about understanding the future of warfare, you need to hit that like button right now. It tells YouTube this matters. Then subscribe and tap the bell. We're about to dive into a tactical masterpiece that Beijing did not see coming. Let's start with the shocking truth they tried to bury. The F-15EX Eagle II is, on paper, everything a modern Air Force shouldn't want. It's not stealthy. It's not cheap. It's an evolution of an airframe that first flew when disco was popular. Military analysts, and frankly, many inside the Pentagon, wrote it off. They said the age of the big, non-stealthy fighter was over. The future belonged to invisible, single-pilot wonders like the F-35. But a quiet, brutal realization changed everything. While China was busy building a massive fleet of J-20 stealth fighters, impressive on paper, but with serious, uncopyable flaws, America asked a different question. What if you don't need to hide? What if you can see the enemy first, shoot them first, and have so many missiles it doesn't even matter if they see you back? This is the core of the F-15EX's genius. It's the world's fastest operational fighter, capable of screaming over Mach 2.5. But its real superpower is payload. Under its wings and belly, it can carry up to 22 air-to-air missiles. That's not a typo. 22? An entire squadron's worth of firepower in one plane. Think about that. A formation of 4 older F-15Cs might carry 16 missiles total. One F-15EX carries more. It's a flying arsenal, a missile truck with afterburners. But a truck full of missiles is useless without a driver who can aim them. That's where the revolution happens. Inside the cockpit, the old world is gone. The familiar cluttered gauges of the Strike Eagle have been ripped out. In their place is a single, breathtaking expanse of glass, the LAD, or Large Area Display. It's a wall-to-wall screen that can be configured to show anything. A god's eye view of the battlefield, sensor feeds from satellites, the position of every friendly and enemy aircraft, the status of every drone in its command. This isn't just a fancy screen, it's the central nervous system. The pilot isn't just flying a plane, they're managing a data storm. And in the back seat, the old Weapons Systems Officer, WSO, role has been transformed. That person is now a battle manager, a cyber warfare specialist, or a drone conductor. Their job is to synthesize the flood of information to be the brain that the pilot's eyes feed into. Together, they form a single, hyper-aware entity. The plane's computer, the ADCP-2, is the fastest mission computer on the planet, processing 87 billion instructions per second. It filters the noise, highlights the threats, and suggests the optimal shot. This fusion of human intuition and machine speed processing creates something new, a pilot who can see the entire three-dimensional chessboard of the sky. But here's the critical part. The F-15EX was designed from the keel up for one specific future mission, to be the quarterback for a team of drones. It's not an afterthought. The wiring, the cooling systems, the data links, the cockpit layout, all of it was built to control multiple unmanned aircraft simultaneously. This is the heart of the USAF's CCA program, Collaborative Combat Aircraft. The Eagle II is the human in the loop, the final authority, but its power is multiplied by its robotic wingmen, and this is where China's panic truly sets in. For years, Beijing's strategy was simple and, in many ways, brilliant in its brutality. Build a lot of planes fast. The J-20 is a capable stealth fighter, but a deep, painful truth undercuts its threat. China's military aviation ecosystem is built on a foundation of copying. The J-20's design, its engine technology, its sensor fusion, it all traces back to stolen or reverse-engineered secrets from the F-22 and F-35. They can stamp out airframes at an alarming rate, a fast food model of air power, but they cannot copy the one thing that takes decades to build: human experience. The institutional knowledge of 100 years of air combat, the muscle memory of a pilot who has trained against the best, the split-second life-or-death decision-making forged in real exercises and, for some, in real conflict. The evidence of this gap is staggering and deeply embarrassing for Beijing. Multiple investigations have exposed a secret program where China was paying exorbitant sums to recruit retired American and British fighter pilots to train their new cadre. Why would a nation claiming technological superiority need to buy the DNA of its adversary's combat experience? Because they know their own pilots, products of a rigid, top-down system with no real combat tradition, are green. They fear that in a real fight over Taiwan, their pilots would be outthought and outflown, by American aviators before their stealth even mattered. So, China's answer is to flood the sky with cheap, disposable drones. They hope to win by attrition, by sheer numbers, to overwhelm and obscure the human weakness at the core of their air force. America's answer is the opposite: surgical, networked, and leveraging the one advantage China can't steal, the seasoned pilot, amplified. The tip of this spear is the MQ-28 Ghost Bat. This is not a slow reconnaissance drone. It's a low, observable, jet-powered, fighter-sized, unmanned combat aerial vehicle. Its sole purpose is to team with a manned fighter like the F-15EX. The Ghost Bat can carry its own air-to-air missiles like the AMRAAM or bombs for strike missions. It can operate as an advanced scout, drawing fire and revealing enemy positions. It can act as a missile truck itself, launched by the F-15EX pilot from beyond visual range. It can even sacrifice itself to protect the manned aircraft. It is, in essence, the perfect wingman, fearless, expendable, and always in the fight. The synergy is terrifying in its efficiency. One F-15EX pilot with their battle manager in the back could potentially control 4 or more Ghost Bats. That single manned aircraft now presents a threat package equivalent to an entire flight of fighters. It multiplies the pilot's situational awareness, extends the reach of their weapons, and complicates the enemy's targeting problem exponentially. The enemy radar doesn't just see one blip. It sees a swarm. Which one is the command plane? Which ones are carrying missiles? Which are just decoys? The mental load on the opposing pilot becomes paralyzing. This isn't theory. This is already happening in the real world. During the massive multinational Violent Shield 26 exercise in the Philippine Sea, the U.S. Pacific Command released official photos. They showed an F-15EX flying in formation with an MQ-28 Ghost Bat over those tense waters. The message was clear and deliberate. This is operational. This is the future. The exercise itself was a stress test for this very concept. The Ghost Bat was operated from a forward, austere location, the island of Rota in the northern Mariana Islands. It conducted refueling and rearming operations alongside HC-130 tankers and HH-60W rescue helicopters, proving the Agile Combat Employment, or AC, doctrine. The idea is to disperse these drone fighter teams across a network of small, hard-to-target Pacific islands, making it a logistical nightmare for China to try and knock them all out. You can't concentrate your force to destroy a force that's deliberately spread out and hidden. The development pace is blistering. The Ghost Bat, built by Boeing in Australia, has been in testing since 2021. It has already successfully launched a live AMRAAM missile autonomously. The U.S. is testing its own versions from bases like Point Mugu in California. The next variants, Block 2 and the feared Block 3, will have longer range and internal bays to carry smaller precision-guided bombs. And the F-15EX production line is roaring. The 2027 defense budget calls for 267 new F-15EXs, a massive vote of confidence after its stellar performance in testing. They are building these missile trucks as fast as they can. So, what does this mean for the balance of power? China's plan was to use its geographic advantage, its proximity to Taiwan, and its mass-produced J-20s to overwhelm U.S. and Allied air power in a short, sharp conflict. They believed their numbers and their stealth would win the day before American resolve could fully mobilize. The F-15EX MQ-28 combo shatters that calculus. It turns the American advantage in pilot training and command and control into a force multiplier that negates China's numerical advantage. An F-15EX with its drone pack doesn't just fight a J-20. It fights the entire J-20 squadron it might be part of, from a safe distance, with more missiles than the whole squadron carries. The J-20 pilot, for all his skill in a copied machine, faces a tactical nightmare. Engage a target he can't easily identify while missiles from unseen angles scream toward him, guided by a human mind linked to a silicon brain he cannot jam or outturn. This is the panic in Beijing. They built a fast food air force, but America has cooked up a Michelin-starred networked system. They can't copy the human element, and now they can't overwhelm it with numbers because each American unit is worth 5 of theirs. The Pacific, once seen as a lake where China could dominate its near shore, is becoming a vast, lethal hunting ground for this new American pack. The cavalry they expected, a traditional air battle, isn't coming. Instead, a silent, intelligent, and relentless swarm is already here. Now, I need you to think critically. This isn't just cool tech, it's a fundamental shift in military philosophy. China bets on mass and secrecy. America is betting on network and intelligence. Which model wins in a high-tech, high-intensity fight? I want your take. In the comments right now, write the one word you think defines this new advantage. Is it network or is it swarm? Let's see the consensus. Tell me why. But let's pull the lens back even further. This isn't just about planes. This is about the final, unforgiving lesson of the modern era. Software and hardware must merge into a single, lethal organism. The F-15EX is just the best hardware platform we have right now to host the software of victory. The real weapon is the network. The real pilot is the algorithm-assisted human. The real battlefield is the electromagnetic spectrum in the decision-making cycle. China's entire model, copy the hardware, produce it fast, is obsolete against an opponent that iterates the system faster than they can copy the part. They are trying to win a chess match by having more pawns, while their opponent is inventing a new game where the pawns think for themselves. This brings us to the profound, unsettling implication. The cost of a top-tier fighter pilot has always been astronomical, over $10 million in training, a decade of perfect health, and irreplaceable combat experience. The Ghostbat changes that math. The cost of a pilot now becomes the cost of a high-performance drone and the bandwidth to control it. The barrier to entry for air power is dropping for the US, while it's skyrocketing for China, who must constantly train new human pilots to replace losses in a war they hope to avoid. America is creating a scalable, sustainable air power model. China is stuck with a fragile, human-intensive one. That is a strategic earthquake. The exercises in the Philippine Sea weren't just for show. They were a live-fire beta test for a new command doctrine. They proved you can operate these complex, drone-armed fighters from tiny, remote islands with minimal infrastructure. You don't need giant, vulnerable air bases. You need distributed, hidden nodes. This makes a first strike by China, which would rely on missile barrages against known U.S. bases in Japan and Guam, infinitely harder. The U.S. can now disperse its most potent air assets across hundreds of small airstrips, protected by a cloud of drones and linked by satellite. To defeat this, China would need to blanket the entire Western Pacific with missiles, a logistical and political impossibility. The AC doctrine, enabled by the F-15EX MQ-28 team, is a defensive masterpiece that turns China's offensive missile advantage into a useless, blunt instrument. And the alliance factor is huge. The MQ-28 program is a tripartite effort between the US, Australia, and the UK. Australia is already operating Ghostbats. This isn't just America selling jets, it's integrating allies into a single interoperable kill web. A Japanese or Australian F-35 could, in theory, coordinate with an American F-15EX and its drone pack. China faces not just the US Air Force, but a networked coalition where every asset shares data in real time. Their near abroad is becoming a networked fortress. So, what's the endgame? The F-15EX and MQ-28 are not just weapons. They are a deterrent. They make the cost of a Chinese move on Taiwan, or any attempt to dominate the first island chain, prohibitively high. They guarantee that any air battle will be fought on America's terms. At long range, with superior information and with an endless salvo of missiles, they force China to confront a truth it cannot engineer or steal, that the human spirit, when amplified by the right tools, is still the ultimate weapon. China can build a factory to make jets. America is building an ecosystem to win wars. This is the new reality. The Pacific is no longer a place where China can dictate the tempo. It's a domain where a single, networked American pilot can control a lethal cloud of aircraft that stretches from horizon to horizon. The panic in Beijing isn't about one plane. It's about the realization that their entire grand strategy, built on mass, secrecy, and stolen technology, has been checkmated by an old airframe with a new mind and a robotic army. The future of air dominance is here, and it has a human at the heart of the machine. If you're still with me, you understand this is a paradigm shift. This is the kind of analysis that cuts through the noise. If you want more content that connects the dots between technology, strategy, and real-world power, you need to be part of this community. Do me a favor. Share this video with one person who needs to see this. Send it to that friend who's obsessed with military tech, or that colleague who talks about China's rise. Use the hashtag #OurDroneSymphony. Let's get this conversation out there. Sharing is how we build a smarter audience, and I read every single comment. Now, let's talk about what this means for you, not just for generals. The principle here is universal. The greatest force multiplier is not just having more resources, but having a system that makes your core asset infinitely more effective. The F-15EX pilot is the core asset. The drones are the multiplier. In your business, your life, your craft, what is your core asset? Your expertise, your creativity, your network, and what is your drone swarm? The tools, the team, the systems that amplify that core asset tenfold. The US military just gave us the ultimate case study in systemic leverage. Don't just watch this story, learn from it. Apply that networked advantage, thinking to your own battlefield. We're approaching the halfway point in this deep dive. Before we get to the final, most controversial implications, I need to ask for your support. This channel runs on curiosity, not corporate backing. If you value this level of unscripted, strategic analysis, please consider becoming a member. Click the join button below. Your support directly funds the research and time it takes to break down topics like this without dumbing them down. You'll get a special badge and access to members-only live chats where we dissect these issues in real time. It's the best way to ensure this kind of content keeps coming. And let's return to the human element, because that's where China's fatal flaw is most exposed. The US is investing billions in resurrecting an old airframe. China is investing billions in building new ones. But America's investment is in people. The F-15EX cockpit, with its vast screen and dual role crew, is designed to reduce cognitive load and enhance decision-making. It's built to protect the pilot's most precious resource, their attention and judgment. A Chinese J-20 pilot in a more conventional, likely more cluttered cockpit faces a more complex task against a more aware adversary. This is the experience gap made manifest in technology. The US isn't just building a better plane, it's building a better pilot. The drone isn't replacing the pilot, it's freeing the pilot from mundane tasks so they can focus on high-level command. It's force multiplication through cognitive offloading. Contrast that with China's dilemma. They have the pilots, they have the planes, but they lack the integrated, battle-tested doctrine. Their attempts to buy Western pilot experience show they know this. Their push for AI-controlled drone swarms is an admission of weakness. They hope to automate away their human deficiency. But we are learning, from Ukraine and elsewhere, that current AI in kinetic combat is brittle. It can be confused, spoofed, or jammed. The human in the loop, augmented by a system like the F-15EXs, provides a resilience and adaptability that pure AI cannot. China is building a system that depends on perfect, uninterrupted data links and flawless AI. America is building a system that depends on a brilliant human with a backup plan, which is more robust in the chaos of war. This is the deeper strategic victory. The US has created a system that is asymmetric to China's strength. China's strength is industrial scale and cyber theft. America's new system is designed to be scale-resistant and cyber-resilient. The F-15EX MQ-28 team doesn't need to outproduce China. It just needs to be good enough, networked enough, and lethal enough to attrit any attacking force before it reaches its target. It turns the conflict from a battle of production rates, where China wins, into a battle of first look, first shot, and first kill, where the networked team wins. This is the strategic jujitsu, using the enemy's assumed advantage, mass against them by changing the nature of the fight. The implications for Taiwan are direct and chilling for Beijing. Any Chinese air campaign would have to cross the Taiwan Strait, a narrow, congested choke point. They would face not just Taiwanese F-16s and American F-35s, but potentially F-15EXs launching from Japan or Guam, each controlling a pack of ghost bats. These drones could be forward deployed to Taiwanese or Allied islands, operating from hidden, short runways. The Chinese air fleet would be attacked from multiple axes by missiles launched from platforms they might not even see until it's too late. The missile truck concept means the US and allies could potentially launch more air-to-air missiles in the opening hours than the entire PLAAF could bring to bear. The calculus of a Chinese air invasion becomes suicidal, and this is why the Violent Shield exercise was so provocative. It was held in the Philippine Sea, a direct message to China that the US can operate and win in the heart of the first island chain, not just beyond it. It demonstrated the AC concept, operating from austere, distributed bases like Rota. It showed the seamless integration of manned and unmanned aircraft. It was a live-fire demonstration of the very system designed to blunt China's primary tool of coercion, its growing air force. Beijing saw its solution, mass J-20s, met by America's counter-solution, a few but vastly more capable networked nodes. Their panic is the quiet understanding that their 20-year plan has been countered by a 5-year program that leverages their greatest weakness, a lack of combat-experienced pilots, and a brittle copied technological base. We are witnessing the end of an era. The era where air superiority was decided primarily by who had the best single aircraft. That era is over. The new era is decided by who has the best network, who can fuse data from the most sources fastest, who can make the best decision under pressure, who can multiply the lethality of a single human operator. On that score, the US has just taken a monumental, likely decisive lead. The F-15EX and MQ-28 are not just planes. They are the physical manifestation of a networked, human-centric, resilient way of war. China's model is centralized, mass-based, and fragile. America's is distributed, intelligent, and adaptive. The Pacific balance of power hasn't just shifted, it has been transformed. The panic in the title isn't hyperbole. It's the cold, rational response of a strategist watching their entire operational concept become obsolete before it's even fully fielded. They built a fleet to fight a battle. America just built a system to win a campaign. And that system is flying today. If this analysis resonates, I need you to do one more thing. Look at your own life. Where are you relying on mass or old ways when you could be building a networked advantage? What old tool are you clinging to that's holding you back? Write that one word in the comments, mass or network. Let's see which mindset dominates. This is how we learn. Now, for those of you who are thinking about the business side of this, the sheer scale of the procurement, the billions flowing to Boeing, the industrial base implications, I have a separate, deeper breakdown. It's in a members-only video I just dropped. It talks about how this program is a deliberate jobs and industry strategy, locking in U.S. aerospace dominance for a generation. If you're a member, it's live now. If you're not, the link to join is below. The conversation there is even more granular. We talk supply chains, congressional politics, and the long-term death knell this rings for China's aviation ambitions. Come join us. We're in the final stretch. Let's cement the core takeaway. China's strategy was to win by overwhelming you with copies of your own technology. America's response wasn't to build a better copy. It was to change the game entirely. It introduced a new variable they couldn't copy. A human pilot enhanced by AI controlling a swarm of expendable drones, all fused into a single aware system. You cannot copy a system. You can only build a better one. And right now, America has built a better one. The F-15EX is the chassis. The MQ-28 is the muscle. The network is the brain. And the American pilot, trained in a century of air combat, is the soul. That combination, silicon, steel, and spirit, is currently unbeatable. China has the steel. It is desperately trying to buy the spirit. It has no answer for the silicon network that binds them. That is the source of the panic. They are not afraid of a plane. They are afraid of a system they cannot replicate, cannot hack, and cannot outproduce. A system that turns every American pilot into a one-man air wing. This is the new face of deterrence. It's not a treaty. It's not a speech. It's a formation of an F-15EX and an MQ-28 flying over the Pacific. A silent flying declaration that the old rules are dead. The age of the lone, heroic fighter pilot is not over. It's being amplified beyond recognition. The age of the cheap, mass-produced fighter might be ending, outclassed by a few brilliant network nodes. The Pacific is no longer a vast emptiness to be crossed. It is a domain now owned by a listening, thinking, and lethal network. China's dream of regional air dominance is hitting a wall of American innovation they saw coming too late. They are not just facing a new weapon, they are facing a new way of war. And they have no answer for it yet. That's the script. The data is clear. The exercises are proven. The production lines are rolling. The strategic logic is sound. The only question is how Beijing will react. Will they double down on their failing model, or will they attempt a desperate, risky gamble? Either way, the advantage in the skies over the Pacific has just tipped decisively. The panic is real. The shift is permanent. Before you go, I have to be direct. Making videos at this depth, with this much research and this many visuals, takes hundreds of hours. It's only possible because of the direct support from our community. If you got value from this, if it changed your understanding of the world, please do two things. First, share this with someone who needs to see it. Second, if you can, support the channel. Click the join button. Become a member. It's the single most important thing you can do to ensure this kind of content survives and thrives. We have a private community discussing this and more every day. I'll see you there. For everyone else, thank you for watching. The world is changing faster than ever. Understanding these shifts isn't just interesting, it's essential. Stay curious. Stay critical. I'll see you in the next one.